Mr. President, it's been just over a month since the worst terror attack in Israeli history. What is your sense of how the Israeli people are doing?
My nation is bereaving deeply. We are mind-boggled by so many things, and especially by the lack of understanding by so many people of the fact that this is not to do with anything of the ongoing conflicts between Israel and its neighbors. It has to do with utter cruelty. It's a philosophy of life. It's a culture of life. It's actually a civilizational value, the argument, battle. It's, are we with the good or with evil? That's where we're at, and that's how we feel here.
You spoke to Vice President Harris this week. There are growing public disagreements between the U.S. and Israel over this question of humanitarian pauses.
No, there aren't.
The U.S. says there should be pauses, and you say not until the hostages are released.
First of all, there aren't. We agree. We agree totally that we have to eradicate Hamas's capabilities. We agree totally that it's, by the way, a worldwide consensus that Israel has the right to defend itself. And we agreed also on major upgrade of the humanitarian aid to Gaza. This is all agreed, despite the fact that we didn't even get one piece of official information from Hamas.
You wrote recently to the presidents of U.S. colleges expressing your concern about anti-Semitic incidents on campus. How worried are you about anti-Semitism in the United States?
I'm extremely worried. And you know what? I studied in colleges and universities in the United States. I have huge respect for American academia, but American academia has to look at itself in the mirror. How come that on these campuses, where these are centers of learning first and foremost history, of learning the lessons of history, of dealing with basic values of humanity and justice and doing good. How can anybody identify, directly or indirectly, with chopping heads of babies, with burning families, with raping women and young girls, with abducting old age, including Holocaust survivors, with a huge amount of genocide that took place on 7th of October? Guys, you can argue with Israel, believe me. We are a democracy, we argue with ourselves, okay? And we can explain and you can explain. This has nothing to do with it.
What do you say to people around the world who support Israel's right to defend itself, but say your forces are killing far, far too many innocent Palestinians in the process?
But that's the tragedy of it all. And that's why I'm saying people are hypocritic. It's been going on for decades. We had rounds and rounds and rounds of these battles going on. We were bombarded by thousands of missiles in the last 25 years. Thousands of missiles. This is after we pulled out of Gaza and gave the Palestinians the full right to lead the place. So Hamas took it by coup in 2007. And since then it's a huge terror base, huge, underneath and above, huge terror base of Iran and its proxy, Hamas, Islamic Jihad. And that is the reason we've gone to war, because of these atrocities. And we have to eradicate that war machine. And unfortunately, there are civilians there, although we alert them and tell them, go out. Now, I can tell you outright, and I swear to you, it tears my heart. These are impossible dilemmas. It's very difficult, and every target is handpicked and checked by legal experts and security experts. And I can tell you, I was many years as a minister in the Israeli government in war cabinets. The first question everybody asked, could please make sure no civilians are hurt. But here, a huge war machine was launched at us, chopping, beheading, burning, raping, killing, abducting. We have the full right to defend ourselves.
By going into Gaza without a clear plan for what happens after Hamas, is Israel in danger of repeating the same mistakes the U.S. made after September 11th?
So I would say that all these questions are brought to bear in the emergency cabinet, war cabinet, which is a national unity cabinet, which is comprised of very serious people. And it's handled well, and they function in a very reasonable and responsible way. And of course, the issue of the day after is being discussed there. But it's not my role to put the plans on the table. There is a very close, intimate relations between Israel, the United States, and many other allies. We are discussing these things in depth, including the lessons that were learned by the United States Army in Iraq and Afghanistan. We are very much aware of it. But let's just explain, as opposed to places which were thousands of miles from home in the United States, these ones are 3 minutes from our homes. That's why they were used as the terror bases to butcher so many Israelis. So that's our dilemma. We don't want to conquer Gaza. But we have to make sure that Hamas is not there, that our people are not threatened.
You meet with the families of the hostages every day. They are desperate for updates. Can you give us any news on the state of negotiations? Are you at all optimistic about a deal to free the hostages?
So there are thousands of Israelis working on it. Last night I was at the Home Front Command. There's a whole war room with thousands of people dealing with each and every person of every family. This issue is the most complex and at the top of the list of our national objectives, of course. Parallel to eradicating Hamas, we are working to bring back our hostages. We are waiting, and I can say to you that right now, up till now, there's no real proposal that is viable from Hamas's side on this issue, whilst there are many, many people who are third parties who are sending optimistic messages to the newsreels. I'm saying outright, according to my knowledge, up till now, there's no real substantial information that is showing any real offer of any process on the table. And that is unfortunate. And of course, we are working both on the military front and in all other fronts to bring them back home.
So there are these optimistic reports. You're saying, from what you know, Hamas is not serious at this point about...
We haven't received. I'm saying we have no information or real substantial offer at hand at this stage. Not that I'm aware of, and I know a lot, and I'm fully briefed up until an hour ago, and there's nothing really tangible. And I believe that the leadership of Hamas wants to tread on our nerves, to work on a psychological warfare.
Does that make you think that the only way to get the hostages out is a rescue?
I don't intend to go into this at all, but I want to explain to your viewers something which goes way above this. You see, it's not only a war between Israel and Hamas. It's a war between empires of good and evil.
Just a few months ago, you and other Israeli leaders were optimistic about the chances of a peace deal with Saudi Arabia. Do you think that deal is still on the table?
So the entire process of the inclusion of Israel in the region, the normalization of relations between Israel and its neighbors, is a historic trajectory in the region. It goes almost 50 years by now. And it moves on. And of course, the next major historic development should be the agreement with Saudi Arabia. I personally believe that after winning this war, this trajectory will only increase, and it's the right thing to do.
As we travel the country, we hear a lot of public anger, much of it directed at Prime Minister Netanyahu, partly about his refusal to take responsibility for what happened on October 7th. Do you still have confidence in the Prime Minister's ability to lead the government?
Look, I work well with all angles of Israeli politics, coalition and opposition. Naturally, in my role and in general, I don't think that right now, as we are in war, that anybody should delve into this debate at this moment. There will become a time, not far away, after the war, that all these issues will be the main issues discussed in Israeli public life. There will be issues of taking responsibility and conclusions. But right now, we're focused at the war, and we should not undermine the incredible unity of the Israeli people.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.